Protecting a target from the firepower of 4 tanks is a daunting task that requires careful consideration of defensive strategies, fortifications, and countermeasures. While it's important to note that there is no foolproof method for ensuring complete protection in such a scenario, there are several measures that can be taken to minimize the risk and increase the target's chances of survival. In this comprehensive guide, we will explore various defensive tactics, fortification options, and countermeasures that can be employed to protect a target from the threat posed by 4 tanks firing simultaneously. Understanding the threat. Before developing a defensive strategy, it's essential to understand the capabilities and characteristics of the tanks posing the threat. Factors such as the type of tanks, their armament, range, and firing rate will influence the defensive measures required to mitigate the threat effectively. Defensive tactics. Evasion and concealment. The first line of defense against tank firepower is evasion and concealment. Moving the target to a location with natural cover, such as dense foliage, terrain features, or urban structures, can help minimize its exposure to enemy fire and make it harder for the tanks to acquire and engage the target. Camouflage and decoys. Utilizing camouflage techniques and deploying decoys can further enhance the target's concealment and deception capabilities. Concealing the target with natural or artificial camouflage patterns and deploying decoy objects or vehicles can confuse enemy tank crews and divert their attention away from the actual target. Defensive positioning. If relocation is not feasible, establishing a defensive position with adequate cover and concealment is essential. Identifying defensible terrain features, such as ridgelines, hills, or buildings, and positioning the target behind them can provide protection from direct fire and minimize exposure to enemy tanks. Fortification options. Blast barriers. Constructing blast barriers or berms around the target can provide protection from the shockwave and fragmentation effects of tank rounds. Using earth-filled barriers, sandbags, or concrete blocks to create protective walls or barriers can absorb and deflect incoming projectiles, reducing their effectiveness against the target. Reinforced structures. Fortifying existing structures or constructing reinforced shelters can offer additional protection against tank fire. Reinforcing walls, ceilings, and floors with armored materials, such as steel plates or reinforced concrete, can increase the target's resilience to direct hits and penetration by tank rounds. Trenches and ditches. Digging trenches or ditches around the target can provide additional protection by creating obstacles and barriers that impede the movement of enemy tanks. Trenches can also serve as firing positions for defending forces, allowing them to engage enemy tanks from concealed positions and with greater effectiveness. Active countermeasures. Smoke screens. Deploying smoke screens can obscure the target's location and disrupt enemy tank targeting systems. Smoke grenades, smoke generators, or smoke pots can be used to create dense smoke screens that obscure visibility and hinder enemy tank crews' ability to acquire and engage the target accurately. Anti-tank weapons. Equipping defending forces with anti-tank weapons, such as rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, anti-tank guided missiles, ADGMs, or man-portable anti-tank weapons, can provide a means of directly engaging and disabling enemy tanks. Coordinating the use of anti-tank weapons with other defensive measures can help neutralize the tank threat effectively. Counterattack. Initiating a counterattack against the enemy tanks can disrupt their offensive momentum and force them to divert their attention and resources away from the target. Coordinating a counterattack with supporting infantry, armored vehicles, or artillery can put pressure on the enemy tanks and create opportunities for the target to escape or maneuver to safety. Passive countermeasures. Damage control measures. Implementing damage control measures, such as reinforcing vulnerable components, compartmentalizing critical systems, and providing redundant systems, can increase the target's survivability in the event of a tank attack. Strengthening structural components, reinforcing critical systems, and implementing emergency shutdown procedures can help mitigate damage and prevent catastrophic failure. Emergency evacuation plans. Developing and implementing emergency evacuation plans is essential for ensuring the safety of personnel and assets in the event of a tank attack. Establishing evacuation routes, designated assembly points, and communication protocols can facilitate the orderly evacuation of personnel and assets to safer locations in a timely manner. Security measures. Enhancing security measures, such as perimeter defenses, surveillance systems, and early warning systems, can help detect and deter enemy tank threats before they reach the target. Implementing security patrols, installing surveillance cameras, and deploying sensors can provide early warning of approaching enemy tanks and allow defending forces to take appropriate defensive actions.